I'm Nicola Coughlin, and for BBC Radio 4, this is history's youngest heroes. Rebellion, risk, and the radical power of youth.
She thought, right, I'll just do it. She thought about others rather than herself.
12 stories of extraordinary young people from across history.
There's a real sense of urgency in them, that resistance has to be mounted, it has to be mounted now.
Follow History's Youngest Heroes wherever you get your podcasts.
In Mississippi, Yazoo Clay keeps secrets.
7,000 bodies out there or more.
A forgotten asylum cemetery.
It was my family's mystery.
Shame, guilt, propriety. Something keeps it all buried deep. Until it's not. I'm Larison Campbell, and this is Under Yazoo Clay. Listen on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, my name is Abby Delk. I'm a producer at Wonder Media Network, and I'm so excited to be guest hosting this episode of Womanica. This month, we're talking about cultivators. Women who nurtured, cross-pollinated, experimented, or went to great lengths to better understand and protect the natural world. You're standing in an art museum, admiring a still life painting in an ornately gilded frame. In it, a bounty of irises, hollyhocks, African marigolds, green grapes, chestnuts, and blackberries hangs from a string. 3 butterflies rest gently on leaves or hover midair as if drawn in by the sweet fragrances of the blooms. Each petal, wing, and even individual grain of pollen is painstakingly detailed with delicate brushwork. The colors glow against the dark background. If you take a look at the label next to the piece, you'll see that it was created by one of Holland's most celebrated painters. Let's talk about Rachel Ruysch. Rachel was born in The Hague in 1664 to Frederick Ruysch and Maria Post. She was the eldest of 10 children. From an early age, Rachel showed talent in drawing and painting. She was no doubt influenced by her family. Her grandfather was a famous architect. Many family members on her mother's side were painters, and her father was a botany and anatomy professor who often drew and painted the specimens in his collection. Rachel especially liked to paint plants and animals. Her parents saw her passion and allowed her to study with a painter to hone her skills. This was unusual at the time for a young woman. Her teacher was Willem van Aalst, who was at the time considered the best still life painter in Amsterdam. Rachel grew up during the Dutch Golden Age, a period from the late 16th to 17th centuries characterized by great prosperity for the Netherlands. While the country established international trade and exerted colonial power abroad, it brought home new understandings about science, art, and the natural world. The Dutch West India and Dutch East India companies imported plants from around the world and displayed them at the Amsterdam Botanical Garden, one of the oldest botanical gardens in Europe. Rachel was just one of the countless artists at the time who would have sat under the glass ceiling and examined the specimens new from oceans away. Initially, Rachel's studies with Van Aalst focused on painting forest scenes. With a small brush, she'd carefully craft precise details. An insect here, a blade of grass there, a spray of white flowers in the background. She used unique techniques, like dipping moss in paint and using it as a sponge to convey the texture of the forest floor. Gradually, Rachel turned her focus from forest scenery to flowers. Her botanical paintings were unique because she didn't actually paint from nature. She painted from her father's specimen collections. Her father used a method of preserving flowers that made it look as if the flowers were still in bloom. That meant Rachel could paint out-of-season flowers, and even place flowers together in her compositions that never would have been in bloom at the same time. Soon, Rachel's star as a painter began to rise. She painted on commission for wealthy clients and was offered membership to the Confrérie Pictura in The Hague, essentially an academic club for artists. She was the first woman to receive such an honor. The prices of her paintings were so high, she only needed to finish a few each year in order to make a living. Even after Rachel got married and started raising a family, she continued to paint. This was very rare for female painters of the era, who typically stopped their artistic practice once they got married. In 1708, Rachel received a contract to be the court painter for the Elector Palatine, Johann Wilhelm. Since she had a husband and children, she was permitted to stay in Amsterdam, rather than move to Dusseldorf where the Elector was based. In this position, she was given an annual allowance and made one painting per year for the electoral couple until the Elector's death in 1716. When the Elector died, Rachel lost her patron. But just a few years later, in 1722, Rachel's life changed forever. The state of Holland occasionally organized lotteries in order to raise money for the government. Rachel and her husband had participated before and secured meager winnings. So they decided to take a shot this time, too. They bought a ticket for 10 guilders. It was the winning ticket. They received 75,000 guilders, the main prize. Rachel may no longer have been a court painter, but now she and her family could live comfortably for the rest of their days. Rachel continued to paint as long as she could, and even experimented with new techniques, like painting against a light background. Until then, dark backgrounds were customary to show depth. In 1750, she was bestowed a book of poems collected over the course of her painting career to commemorate her legacy. Later that year, on October 12th, she passed away. All month, we're talking about cultivators. For more information, find us on Facebook and Instagram at Womanica Podcast. Thanks to co-creators Jenny and Liz Kaplan for letting me guest host. Talk to you tomorrow.
I'm Nicola Coughlin, and for BBC Radio 4, this is history's youngest heroes. Rebellion, risk, and the radical power of youth.
She thought, right, I'll just do it. She thought about others rather than herself.
12 stories of extraordinary young people from across history.
There's a real sense of urgency in them, that resistance has to be mounted now.
Follow history's youngest heroes wherever you get your podcasts.
In Mississippi, Yazoo Clay keeps secrets.
7,000 bodies out there or more.
A forgotten asylum cemetery.
It was my family's mystery.
Shame, guilt, propriety. Something keeps it all buried deep. Until it's not. I'm Larison Campbell, and this is Under Yazoo Clay. Listen on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.